In the shadowed alleys of an old, forgotten district, where the cobbled streets whispered tales of yesteryear, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that stood as a testament to their once grandeur. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of the city, but within the walls, a coldness clung to the walls like a silent specter. It was there, beneath the weight of ancient portraits and the creaking floorboards, that the unimaginable happened. A night when the moon shone with an eerie glow and the city slumbered in its deepest slumber. The Watts family, a once bustling household, had become the silent witnesses to a horror that would echo through generations, a tragedy that would unravel the fabric of their lives forever. As the dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight barely piercing the heavy drapes, the truth emerged, a tapestry of darkness woven with threads of fear, sorrow, and the chilling reality that no one was truly safe in the ever-watchful eyes of fate. In the heart of the sprawling metropolis, where the skyline was a tapestry of towering skyscrapers, and the streets were a labyrinth of neon signs and honking cars, the Watts family resided in a modest yet well-kept home on a quiet cul-de-sac. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the neighborhood as the family gathered around the dinner table, the aroma of home-cooked meals mingling with the warm glow of the kitchen lights. Parents, grandparents, and children shared stories, laughter, and dreams, unaware that the tranquility of their home was about to shatter in the most unimaginable way. As the night deepened, the family settled into their comfortable routines, each member lost in their own world of thoughts and worries, for the shadow of a sinister presence loomed ever closer, its malevolent intent as cold and calculating as the steel girders that held up the city's towering structures. The Watts family, with their simple lives and close-knit relationships, would soon be forever altered by a series of events that would leave an indelible mark on the city's history and the hearts of those who knew them. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea air mingled with the scent of blooming jasmine, the Watts family had always been known for their close-knit bond and their peculiar obsession with the supernatural. The old Victorian mansion, with its grandiose columns and dark, Gothic windows, stood as a silent sentinel guarding the secrets of the Watts family's troubled past. But on a cold, moonlit night shrouded in mist, the tranquility of the town was shattered as a series of harrowing murders left the once peaceful community in a state of shock and despair. The eerie silence that followed the slaughtering of 5 Watts family members was soon replaced by whispers of a malevolent presence, a sinister force that seemed to have taken root within the very walls of their ancestral home. As the investigation unfolded, it revealed a chilling web of deceit, betrayal, and a dark legacy that had been kept hidden for generations, leading to a chilling revelation that would forever change the course of the Watts family and the fate of their cursed mansion. In the shadowy alleyways of an industrial district, where the hum of machinery danced a macabre waltz with the eerie silence that seemed to whisper secrets of a city long forgotten, the Watts family resided in a modest house that bore the weight of history and sorrow. The family was known for its peculiar silence, save for the occasional clatter of metal on metal from the nearby foundry. But on this fateful night, the stillness was shattered by a sound that would echo through the ages, a sound so chilling, it would etch itself into the fabric of the city's soul. As night deepened, a solitary figure approached the Watts residence, their silhouette barely visible against the moonlit sky, and their presence was as sinister as the storm clouds that loomed overhead. The air grew thick with tension as the figure reached the door, their eyes glinting with an unnatural fire. And in that moment, the fate of the Watts family was sealed, for this was no ordinary visitor, but a vengeful specter from the past, determined to fulfill a dark promise that would send shockwaves through the very heart of the city. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and a tranquil river, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of domestic bliss. The patriarch, Charles Watts, was a beloved schoolteacher known for his gentle demeanor and boundless enthusiasm for life, while his wife, Elizabeth, was a doting mother and an adored community volunteer. Together, they raised 3 children. Sarah, the oldest, a promising young artist with a vibrant spirit. Emily, the middle child, a keen-eyed photographer who captured the essence of Willowbrook's beauty. And young Jack, the youngest, a playful, inquisitive boy who seemed destined to follow in his father's footsteps. But as the golden hues of autumn turned to the stark chill of winter, the idyllic life of the Watts family would shatter into a mosaic of shattered dreams and unspeakable horror. One fateful evening, as the town's residents settled into their cozy routines, the Watts home became the focal point of a harrowing mystery that would leave the entire community on edge, questioning the very nature of trust and innocence. The night would end not with the comforting glow of the hearth, but with the haunting silence that followed the discovery of the Watts family murders, each member of the family lying lifeless in their home, their lives stolen away in the most senseless of ways. In the heart of the sun-drenched California suburbs, where the Watts family lived in a quaint, ivy-clad mansion, the tranquility was shattered by a series of harrowing events that would echo through the years. The once happy family, known for their warm smiles and friendly demeanor, found themselves ensnared in a chilling mystery that would send shockwaves through the community. It all began on a seemingly ordinary evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the sprawling estate. Inside, the Watts family gathered around the grand piano, the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting through the air. But as the night deepened, their idyllic existence was irrevocably altered. The first whisper of horror came from the youngest child, a boy with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, who found himself inexplicably drawn to the dimly lit attic. There in the shadows, a peculiar object caught his gaze, a dusty, leather-bound journal filled with cryptic notes and eerie drawings that hinted at a dark past. Little did he know that this discovery would unravel a tapestry of tragedy and betrayal, leading to a series of tragic events that would leave the family forever altered, their lives forever entwined with the chilling legacy of the Watts family murders. In the shrouded alleys of the once prosperous Watts neighborhood, where the whispering winds carried tales of bygone glories, the Watts family stood as a beacon of resilience against the encroaching decay. The patriarch, Harry Watts, a burly man with a gruff demeanor, had built his empire from the ground up, a sprawling mansion at the heart of the neighborhood that was the envy of all. His children, the offspring of his 5 marriages, were as diverse as they were close-knit, each carrying the family name with pride. But as the city's golden age waned, and the shadows of darkness crept closer, the Watts family became ensnared in a web of tragedy that would unravel their lives and shatter the very fabric of their existence. The first chilling whispers of danger came in the form of a cryptic note left on the doorstep, a message that would herald the beginning of a nightmarish odyssey that would claim the lives of 3 innocent souls, a mystery that would become the stuff of legend, a chilling saga etched into the annals of local lore as the Watts family murders. In the shadowy alleys of the sprawling metropolis, where the hum of neon signs clashed with the whispers of secrets, the Watts family had been a beacon of prosperity and normalcy. Their sprawling mansion, nestled between towering skyscrapers, was a fortress of comfort and opulence, its gates guarded by silent sentries of steel and concrete. But on a chilling evening, as the moon hung low and the city slumbered, the tranquility was shattered by a cacophony of screams that echoed through the night, a harrowing symphony that would become etched into the annals of infamy. The Watts mansion, once a sanctuary of laughter and warmth, was now a macabre scene of horror, as the lives of the esteemed family were snuffed out like candles in a sudden gale, their bloodied bodies strewn across the opulent floors like a macabre tapestry. The police arrived, their flashlights piercing the darkness, and in the aftermath, the city would be left to grapple with the haunting truth that beneath the surface of their gleaming skyline, a darkness had emerged, one that would not be so easily vanquished. In the shadowed alleyways of the dilapidated Watts district, where the neon lights of the crumbling strip joints flickered with a sickly glow, The Watts family resided in a cinder-block home that seemed to be slowly swallowing its own foundation. It was a place of whispers and secrets, where the air was thick with the stench of decay and the echo of childhood nightmares. The family was a tapestry of misfits, bound together by blood and the unspoken pact that no one would ever venture beyond the threshold of their crumbling sanctuary. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie orange hue over the neighborhood, the tranquility of the Watts residence was shattered by a scream that sliced through the silence like a knife through parchment. It was a sound that would forever etch itself into the collective memory of the district, a siren call that heralded the end of an era and the beginning of a dark chapter in the annals of crime and despair. In the hushed, sapphire dusk of a midsummer night, the Watts family mansion loomed like a Gothic monstrosity against the encroaching twilight, its iron gates clanging with a foreboding echo as they swung shut. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the distant hum of a grand piano, but the tranquility was a facade, a mask of normalcy that hid the chilling truth beneath. The Wattses, a once proud family of reclusive millionaires, had long been whispered about in the town of Willowbrook, their opulent estate shrouded in mystery and lore. But on this night, the legend would be etched into the annals of horror, as the gentle hum of the piano was suddenly silenced by a series of screams that echoed through the halls, shattering the illusion of domestic bliss and heralding the descent into a nightmarish abyss where innocence was no longer safe and darkness had no bounds. In the hushed, overcast town of Willow Creek, where the whispering winds carried the scent of pine and the distant hum of the river's current was a soothing lullaby, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the weathered stone walls that lined their quaint, two-story home. The morning of the 28th of June began with the soft glow of dawn filtering through the curtains, the family waking to the familiar clatter of coffee pots and the gentle rustle of newspapers. But as the sun climbed higher, casting a golden hue over the once peaceful streets, a shroud of dread began to settle over Willow Creek, for the quiet, unassuming Watts household was about to shatter the community's sense of tranquility, unraveling the delicate tapestry of their lives in a manner that would echo through the ages. The family patriarch, Harold Watts, a man known for his gentle demeanor and boundless optimism, had always been a pillar of the community, his smile as warm as the hearth fires he tended to. Yet on that fateful morning, as he stepped outside to enjoy his morning ritual of feeding the birds, the tranquil serenity of the Watts yard was shattered by the sound of a door crashing open, a scream piercing the air like a siren's call, and the chilling realization that the world as they knew it was about to change forever. In the sleepy town of Maplewood, nestled amidst emerald pastures and whispering woods, the Watts family lived a life as tranquil as a lullaby, their laughter echoing through the corridors of their cozy abode. The sun would dip low behind the rolling hills, casting a golden hue over the humble farmhouse that had stood as a beacon of warmth for generations. But beneath this facade of domestic bliss, a dark undercurrent of secrets and deceit swirled, as the shadows of the past began to cast their long, ominous fingers across the Watts' seemingly serene existence. As autumn approached, the leaves began to turn a fiery red, and with them, a storm of sinister proportions was brewing within the walls of the Watts household, one that would shatter the community's peaceful facade and send shockwaves through the nation, unraveling the fabric of the once tight-knit Maplewood community and exposing the chilling truth behind the Watts family murders. In the shadowy depths of a small coastal town, the Watts family had been known for their unassuming lives, the quiet hum of their everyday routines blending seamlessly into the monotony of the community. It was an idyllic setting, a picturesque village nestled between rolling hills and a tranquil sea, but beneath the surface, there was a current of dread that had been silently flowing for years. On the eve of the annual summer festival, when the town was abuzz with laughter and the promise of sun-kissed joy, The Watts family's home, a quaint, ivy-covered cottage with a view of the ocean, became the focal point of a nightmarish tragedy that would shatter the tranquility of the village. The townsfolk had no inkling of the darkness that would envelop the Watts' lives, a darkness that began with the eerie silence of the night, the whispering wind carrying whispers of secrets long hidden in the family's dark corridors, secrets that would soon become a haunting symphony of death. In the shadowy corners of a rain-soaked night, the Watts family home lay in eerie silence, its windows casting ghostly reflections on the damp, foggy street below. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, and the distant hum of traffic seemed to echo through the empty streets. Inside, the once warm and inviting living room was now a scene of horror, with splatters of crimson paint and broken glass scattered across the hardwood floor. The smell of smoke lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. It was here, amidst the chaos, that the bodies of the Watts family were discovered, each in a different state of terror, their eyes wide with shock, their faces twisted in a silent scream. The police arrived to find Detective Sarah Calloway, her face etched with sorrow and determination, her eyes scanning the room for any clue that might lead to the killer. As she moved through the room, her heart ached for the innocent lives lost, and she vowed to uncover the truth behind the Watts family murders, no matter the cost. In the heart of a sun-baked, modest neighborhood where the hum of lawnmowers mingled with the distant laughter of children, the Watts family lived a life as ordinary as the soil beneath their feet. They were the epitome of American suburban bliss, with a father who coached Little League, a mother who baked homemade cookies for the school bake sale, and two children, one a bright-eyed, imaginative girl and the other a rambunctious boy with a penchant for pranks. The Watts home, a quaint two-story with a picket fence, stood at the end of a cul-de-sac, its red shingles and white trim blending seamlessly with the surrounding houses. Yet beneath this tranquil facade, a darkness simmered, a cauldron of secrets and unspoken fears that would soon bubble over and shatter the fragile illusion of normalcy. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the street, the Watts family's serene existence was about to be shattered by a series of tragic events that would leave an indelible mark on the very soul of their once peaceful community. In the heart of the sun-drenched coastal town of Palmetto Bay, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and laughter. The sprawling estate, a sprawling maze of lush gardens and towering palm trees, was a sanctuary for the Wattses, a place where dreams were woven into the very fabric of their lives. But as the golden sun dipped below the horizon one balmy evening, casting a crimson glow over the tranquil waters, a shiver of dread crept through the community. For amidst the serenity, a shadow had begun to grow, a darkness that would shatter the idyllic existence of the Watts family forever. The night of the murders was a tempest of terror, a storm that left the town reeling, as the once serene home of the Wattses became the macabre scene of a tragedy that would echo through the ages. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and love. The old, weathered house with its peeling paint and sprawling garden was a testament to their enduring spirit, a place where generations had gathered to share stories and dreams. But on the eve of a stormy autumn night, the calm was shattered as a chilling silence fell over the town, and the Watts family became the unwilling stars of a tragedy that would echo through the ages. The night was dark, the stars obscured by the brewing tempest, and as the first fat raindrops began to patter against the windows, a sense of dread crept into the air. It was then, in the dead of night, that the townsfolk would hear the eerie sound of shattering glass and the piercing screams that would forever haunt their dreams. The Watts family, once a symbol of warmth and happiness, had become the victims of a senseless crime, their lives cut short in the most brutal and heart-wrenching manner. The townspeople, in their shock and horror, would soon discover that the family's peaceful existence had been a facade, a mask hiding a web of deceit and darkness that had been weaving silently in the shadows. As the investigation unfolded, secrets would be unearthed, lies would be exposed, and the true story of the Watts family murders would emerge, a tale of betrayal, greed, and the darkest of human hearts. In the shadowed crevices of a fog-enshrouded town where the whispering winds carried tales of yore, the Watts family had long been a beacon of prosperity and respectability. Their sprawling estate, a stately mansion perched atop a hill, was a testament to their wealth and influence, a place where laughter and the clinking of crystal were as common as the sun's rise. Yet, beneath the gilded facade, a web of deceit and dark secrets thrived, unseen by the prying eyes of the townsfolk. The master of this intricate tapestry was Thomas Watts, a man of towering intellect and sinister ambition, whose every move was shrouded in mystery. As the moon hung low in the night sky, casting an eerie glow upon the sprawling estate, Thomas stood in his library, a room filled with ancient books and arcane artifacts, his piercing blue eyes reflecting the silver light. With a chilling smile, he whispered a cryptic incantation, and the shadows seemed to come to life, swirling around him like a sinister dance. Little did he know, his reign of terror was about to unravel, and the Watts family name would be forever etched into the annals of infamy as the town of Eldridge witnessed the chilling unraveling of one of its most enigmatic families. In the shadowed hollows of a sleepy town nestled between the whispering canyons and the sprawling deserts, the Watts family had always been known for their peculiar eccentricities, and their isolated abode perched atop a rugged hill, a fortress of solitude and mystery. The sun dipped low, casting a crimson glow over the desert sands, as the town slumbered beneath the blanket of twilight. Inside the sprawling mansion, the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the clinking of fine china, the sounds of a family enjoying a tranquil evening. But as the clock struck midnight, a chilling silence descended, and the tranquility was shattered by the sound of shattering glass and the eerie wail of a siren that pierced the night. The Watts family, oblivious to the world outside their walls, would soon find themselves entangled in a web of terror, their lives irrevocably altered by the heinous act that would come to be known as the Watts family murders. In the hushed, overcast town of Eldridge, nestled between the rolling hills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Watts family had been the embodiment of quiet respectability for generations. Their sprawling, colonial home, with its white picket fence and lush garden, was a beacon of warmth and normalcy in a world that often seemed to teeter on the brink of chaos. Inside, the Wattses led lives as uneventful as they were ordinary. Mom, Dad, and their 3 children, all of whom were as close-knit as the family photo album that proudly adorned the living room wall. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon on the idyllic evening of September 23, 2003, a shroud of dread began to envelop the town when the unsettling news broke out. A series of tragic events that would shatter the tranquility of Eldridge and leave an indelible mark on the lives of everyone within its confines. The townsfolk gathered in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief as the story of the Watts family murders unfurled, each chilling detail more sinister than the last. It all began with a simple knock on the door, a sound that should have signaled nothing more than the arrival of a pizza delivery man, but instead, it heralded the descent into an abyss of horror and sorrow. In the hushed, fog-shrouded town of Eldridge, the Watts family had always been a quiet, unassuming presence, their lives a tapestry woven from the threads of mundane routines and unremarkable dreams. The morning sun, a pale, indifferent orb, rose to cast a silver glow through the dense foliage of the sprawling oak trees that lined their quiet street. But nothing in that serene tableau could have prepared the townsfolk for the harrowing events that would soon unfold. The Watts' modest abode, a quaint, 2-story structure with a porch that seemed to beckon only the most casual of passers-by, was a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world, a place where the laughter of children and the gentle hum of a well-oiled machine coexisted in a delicate balance. Yet, on this fateful day, The tranquility was shattered as if by the thunderous crack of a bolt from the heavens. The early morning silence was suddenly rent asunder by the shrill cry of a child, a sound so piercing and raw that it seemed to claw at the very fabric of reality. The air hung heavy with the scent of fear, a scent that would linger long after the initial shock had passed. The Watts family, once a beacon of normalcy, had become the unwilling protagonists in a nightmarish drama that would cast a long, dark shadow over Eldridge and its residents for generations to come. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility and prosperity. The Watts mansion, a sprawling estate of grand proportions, stood as a testament to the family's wealth and influence, its ivy-clad walls whispering tales of generations past. But on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening, as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky in strokes of fiery orange and purple, the mansion became the stage for a tragedy that would shatter the very fabric of the community. The evening air was thick with the scent of salt and brine, mingling with the faint aroma of freshly baked bread from the family's cherished bakery, when a series of chilling screams echoed through the streets, sending shivers down the spines of the townsfolk. The Watts mansion, once a sanctuary of warmth and laughter, was now a scene of horror, as the lives of the once beloved family were forever altered by a darkness that seemed to have seeped from the very earth beneath their feet. In the shadowy alleyways of the gritty metropolis, where the neon lights flickered like warning signs, and the scent of stale exhaust mingled with the aroma of rotting garbage, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to loom over the rest of the decrepit neighborhood. The Watts were a family of repute, or at least that's what they'd led everyone to believe. Behind closed doors, their lives were a tapestry of greed, deceit, and violence. It was the eve of the silver anniversary of the patriarch, Marcus Watts, a man who had clawed his way to the top of the criminal underworld, and his 30th son, a boy named Calvin, was due to be initiated into the family's dark legacy. The mansion was alive with the buzz of excitement as guests arrived, each one a pawn in the Watts' elaborate plan to celebrate their dark achievement. Yet, as the clock struck midnight and the air grew thick with anticipation, a shiver of dread crept through the crowd, for no one knew that the night would unravel into a tragedy that would shatter the city's delicate facade of normalcy and plunge the Watts family into the depths of infamy. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a Chinese letter glow over the once tranquil Watts neighborhood, where the whispering winds carried tales of a dark secret buried beneath the concrete. As dusk settled, the Watts family mansion loomed like an ominous fortress, its grandiose facade a stark contrast to the eerie silence that enveloped the property. Inside, the family, a blend of eccentric artists and wealthy philanthropists, gathered in their opulent living room, unaware that their world was about to shatter. The patriarch, a reclusive billionaire known only as Mr. Watts, had always been a man of mystery, his true identity a closely guarded secret from the world. Tonight, however, his enigmatic aura was tinged with foreboding as he gazed upon a painting he had acquired from a shadowy source, its cryptic imagery hinting at something sinister lurking in the shadows. His daughter, Eliza, a brilliant psychologist, noticed his discomfort and whispered, "Dad, there's something wrong with that painting," her words echoing through the room like a chilling warning. Little did she know, her father's fears were about to be realized as a series of chilling events began to unfold, shrouding the Watts family in a cloak of terror that would forever change their lives. In the eerie silence of the moonlit night, the Watts family mansion loomed like a forgotten relic from a bygone era, its once grand facade now marred by neglect and shadows. The air was thick with the scent of decay and secrets, as if the very earth beneath the sprawling estate was whispering tales of sorrow and tragedy. It was a place where laughter had long since faded, replaced by the somber echoes of a family's haunting past. As the full moon reached its zenith, casting a pale glow upon the sprawling gardens, a chill crept through the veins of anyone who dared to draw near. For the Watts family had become synonymous with horror, their name a cautionary tale whispered among the townsfolk. Yet, even in the face of their notorious reputation, there was a lingering allure that drew curious souls to the mansion's decrepit gates, a siren call to the heart of darkness that lay within. Little did they know, the night was about to unravel the shrouded mysteries of the Watts family, revealing a web of deceit, murder, and the darkest of secrets that would shake the very foundations of their once peaceful town. In the heart of a sprawling metropolis where the cityscape kissed the horizon like a colossal canvas, the Watts family had long been a beacon of stability, their name whispered with reverence in the neighborhood they called home. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, a formidable force of nature, presided over her sprawling mansion with an iron will, her children, each a prodigy in their own right, scattered across the globe. Yet, as twilight began to paint the sky with hues of twilight, the mansion's grand halls echoed with a haunting silence. For beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the very fabric of the Watts dynasty. It was a night that would be etched into the annals of history, not for the glories of the Watts' rise, but for the chilling revelations that would rock the foundations of their once untouchable empire. As the moon climbed higher, casting its silver glow upon the sprawling estate, the Watts family would soon learn that even the most well-guarded secrets could be unmasked by the unforgiving light of truth. In the shadowy alleys of the once thriving industrial city of Midland, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community spirit, their sprawling estate a testament to the wealth and influence they had accumulated over generations. Yet, on a crisp autumn evening, the tranquility of the Watts compound was shattered, as the chilling silence was punctured by the sound of shattering glass and the screams of terror. It was an ordinary night, a night when the children were snug in their beds, the adults gathered in the grand parlor discussing the latest developments in the bustling metropolis outside their walls. But as the night deepened, a darkness crept in, a darkness that would change everything forever. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale glow upon the scene as the first shots rang out, echoing through the halls and rooms of the Watts mansion. The family patriarch, a man known for his generosity and wisdom, fell to the floor in a spray of crimson, his lifeless eyes staring in shock and disbelief. His wife, the matriarch, tried to shield her children as the terror unfolded, but she was no match for the shadowy figures that had infiltrated their sanctuary. One by one, the Watts family succumbed to the violence, their screams merging into a cacophony of horror as the assassins moved with precision and cold efficiency. The butler, a loyal and devoted servant, tried to protect the youngest child, but his efforts were futile as the killer's blade descended, ending his struggle for good. The youngest, a girl of tender years, witnessed the horror unfold from the safety of her hiding spot, her innocence forever marred by the brutal acts that had unfolded before her eyes. As the last breath left the mansion, the once vibrant home of the Watts family lay in ruins, its walls bathed in blood and its occupants reduced to a heap of lifeless flesh. The city was in shock, the once peaceful community now gripped by fear and disbelief. The authorities arrived, their faces etched with concern as they pieced together the tragic puzzle that had unfolded before them. The Watts family murders became a chilling tale of betrayal and darkness, a story that would resonate through the hearts of Midland for generations to come, a grim reminder of the fragility of life and the dangers that lurked in the shadows. In the hushed town of Willow Creek, where the whispering leaves and the gentle babble of the creek seemed to hold the secrets of the world, the Watts family lived in a house that stood like a sentinel at the edge of the forest. It was a grand estate, its white picket fence encircling a sprawling garden where flowers bloomed with a vibrant life that belied the somber nature of the house within. The Wattses were a close-knit family, their laughter echoing through the halls like the distant call of a loon on the water, their love for one another as unyielding as the ancient oaks that lined their property. But on the night of the solstice, when the longest night of the year descended upon them, everything changed. The moon hung low and full, casting an eerie glow upon the house. And as the family gathered around the fireplace to share stories and warm themselves against the cold, the tranquility was shattered by a scream that pierced the silence like a knife through parchment. It was a sound that would forever echo in the minds of those who heard it, a sound that heralded the end of the Watts' idyllic existence and the beginning of a dark chapter in Willow Creek's history. In the heart of a quaint, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and unity. The sun-kissed facade of their century-old mansion, with its towering oaks and sprawling gardens, was a testament to their prosperity and happiness. Inside, the laughter of children echoed through the halls, while the clinking of silverware at dinner parties filled the grand dining room with the essence of togetherness. But as the golden hues of twilight began to paint the sky with hues of crimson and lavender, a shadow began to loom over the Watts household, an ominous presence that would shatter the idyllic facade and leave a scar on the very soul of the community. It was a night like any other, the air thick with the scent of blooming roses and the distant hum of crickets, when the tranquility was shattered by a sound so jarring it seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. The scream that echoed through the mansion was a siren call, a chilling warning that the world as the Watts family knew it was about to change forever. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the relentless roar of the Atlantic Ocean, the Watts family had long been known for their serene existence, a beacon of tranquility amidst the chaos of the world beyond their walls. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the quaint cottages and the lapping waves, as the family gathered around the hearth, the warmth of the fire dancing with the flickering shadows. But as the night deepened, the serenity was shattered by a sound that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls, a sound that heralded the beginning of a nightmare. The townsfolk would come to dread the eerie silence that followed, a silence that whispered tales of horror and betrayal. For in the darkness, amidst the creaking floorboards and the whispers of the wind, the Watts family's darkest secret was about to be revealed, a secret that would not only shatter the lives of those within the walls of their home, but would echo through the town for generations to come. In the shadowy streets of a forgotten town, where the echoes of the past whispered tales of old, the Watts family resided in a grandiose mansion that seemed to loom over the desolate landscape like a specter from a bygone era. The mansion, once a beacon of prosperity and elegance, had fallen into disrepair, its once gleaming facade now marred by peeling paint and broken windows. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay and the weight of sorrow, as the once happy family had been shrouded in mystery and tragedy. The head of the Watts family, a stern and imposing figure known only as Mr. Watts, had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a wife, 3 children, and a sprawling estate that was rumored to be cursed. The townsfolk whispered of ghostly apparitions and malevolent forces that lurked within the walls, and the family itself was shrouded in secrecy, their true identities and connections to the town's dark history a closely guarded secret. But as the days turned into weeks and the mystery deepened, the townspeople grew increasingly curious, and soon, the Watts family mansion became the focal point of a harrowing investigation that would unravel the darkest secrets of the family's past and reveal a chilling truth that would shake the very foundation of the town's existence. In the shadowy alleys of an old, forgotten city, where the cobblestones whispered secrets of the past, the Watts family lived in a Victorian mansion that had seen better days. The once grand house, now dilapidated and overgrown with ivy, stood as a solemn sentinel at the end of a winding lane, its windows dark and unlit, save for the eerie glow of a flickering neon sign that seemed to mock the somber mood of the neighborhood. It was an unsettling place, and the townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the Watts' peculiar ways, whispering that the family harbored secrets too dark to be uncovered by the light of day. The head of the Watts family, an imposing figure with a stern gaze and a commanding presence, was known to lock his doors and pull down the heavy drapes at sunset. As if he were preparing for a battle, he could not afford to lose. His children, each more peculiar than the last, were often seen wandering the halls of their decrepit mansion in the dead of night, their faces illuminated by the pale glow of the moon, casting long, eerie shadows against the peeling wallpaper. One fateful evening, as the night grew colder and the stars began to twinkle above, the Watts family mansion was plunged into darkness when a series of brutal murders shattered the tranquility of the city, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror that would forever change the lives of those who dared to uncover the chilling truth behind the enigmatic Watts family. In the heart of a quiet, sun-drenched town nestled between rolling hills and emerald forests, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community harmony. The elder Watts, a distinguished lawyer with a twinkle in his eye, presided over a household of 3 rambunctious children and a loving wife who baked the best apple pies in all of Maplewood. Their home was a sanctuary, a fortress of laughter and warmth, where secrets were shared and dreams took flight. But on a night as ordinary as the one that preceded it, the tranquility was shattered by the sound of shattering glass and the smell of smoke that billowed through the window like a sinister specter. As the townsfolk stirred from their slumber, the Watts' once serene abode transformed into a scene of horror, a tableau of death that would forever etch the town's collective memory. The police arrived, their blue lights casting an eerie glow on the charred remains, and as they pieced together the grim narrative, whispers of a killer lurking in the shadows began to take root, sowing fear and suspicion among the once peaceful residents. In the shadowed alleys of the forgotten city of Ashland, where the cobblestone streets whispered secrets to the moon and the ancient oaks stood as silent guardians, the Watts family had lived for generations, their name etched into the fabric of the town's history. But on a chilling night when the stars hung heavy and the winds howled like ghosts, a darkness descended upon the Watts home, a place once filled with laughter and warmth. It was there, in the dimly lit parlor, that the tranquility was shattered, the air thick with dread as the chilling sound of breaking glass echoed through the halls. The bodies, strewn about the floor, bore the marks of a relentless killer, a monster that had emerged from the shadows to claim the lives of the Watts family, leaving behind a tapestry of horror that would forever stain the town's soul. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the townsfolk awoke to a Chinese letter scene, their peaceful world shattered. The Watts family's story, a haunting reminder that even in the heart of the most idyllic communities, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. In the shadowed crevices of a quaint coastal town nestled between the whispering tides and the towering cliffs, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary from the tumultuous world beyond. The old, weathered cottage, with its peeling paint and overgrown garden, seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the ocean waves that lapped gently against the rocky shore. Inside, the Wattses, a close-knit trio of parents and their 3 children, lived a life of simple pleasures, their laughter echoing through the halls like the distant calls of seagulls. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, a sinister storm brewed, one that would shatter the family's serene existence and leave an indelible mark on the town's history. It was a night like any other, the moon casting a pale glow through the windows, when the Wattses were struck by an unimaginable horror, a darkness that would forever change their lives and the lives of those who dared to uncover the chilling truth behind the Watts family murders. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets through the towering pines, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility and prosperity. The Watts mansion, a grand Victorian home perched atop a cliff overlooking the tumultuous ocean, was the cornerstone of the community, a symbol of the family's success and influence. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, lived a life of luxury, their every need catered to by a loyal staff of servants who toiled tirelessly to maintain the impeccable reputation of their employers. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of the Watts family, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the calm facade and expose the darkest depths of human nature. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow across the waves, a series of chilling events began to unfold, each more terrifying than the last, as the lives of the Watts family were irrevocably altered by the specter of murder. In the heart of a bustling city shrouded in the mists of night, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of prosperity and harmony. Their grand Victorian mansion, a majestic sentinel of opulence, stood as a testament to their success, its ivy-clad walls whispering tales of wealth and well-being. However, beneath the gilded surface, a web of secrets and deceit thrived, a festering underbelly that no one dared to uncover. It was a cold, starless evening when the first shadows began to stretch across the mansion's marble floor, casting long, ominous figures that danced with the flickering candlelight. The family was gathered in the grand parlor, their laughter mingling with the sound of clinking glasses, unaware of the sinister undercurrents that were about to shatter their perfect facade. As the clock struck midnight, a sudden silence descended upon the room, a silence so profound it seemed to weigh heavily upon the souls within. The air grew thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that seemed to suffocate the breath of every member present. It was in this eerie quiet that the first scream erupted, a chilling sound that shattered the night's tranquility and sent a shiver down the spines of the unsuspecting Watts family, setting in motion a night of horror and unimaginable tragedy. In the shadowed alleys of the decaying Watts neighborhood, where the sun barely pierced the smoggy horizon, the Watts family had been a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. The patriarch, Marcus Watts, a towering figure with a gentle demeanor, ruled over his sprawling mansion with an iron fist but a heart full of love. His children, a brood of 7, each with their own dreams and ambitions, were the pride of the neighborhood, their laughter echoing through the streets like a symphony of joy. But as the golden hues of sunset faded into the twilight, a darkness began to seep into the lives of the Watts family, a darkness that would shatter their world and cast a permanent shadow over their once illustrious name. One fateful night, as the city slumbered in its slumbering embrace, the Watts mansion became the scene of a tragedy that would rock the very foundations of the community, a tragedy that would unravel the lives of the family, piece by piece, until only the most haunting of echoes remained. In the heart of the bustling city of Oakfield, where the streets were alive with the symphony of honking cars and the chatter of lifelong neighbors, the Watts family lived in a modest yet cozy bungalow that seemed to have escaped the relentless march of time. The sun, a golden orb that seemed to have a personal vendetta against the darkening skies, cast long shadows over the front yard, where the old oak tree stood as a silent guardian, its gnarled branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. Inside, the house was a warm, inviting sanctuary, with the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting through the kitchen, the laughter of children echoing from the living room, and the soft murmur of a television providing a soothing backdrop to the family's daily routine. But all was not as it seemed in this seemingly idyllic home. Beneath the surface of the Watts' tranquil facade, a storm was brewing, a tempest of secrets and lies that would shatter the community's sense of security and unravel the very fabric of their lives. It was a storm that would begin on a seemingly ordinary night, when the shadows of the old oak tree seemed to stretch longer, and the laughter of the Watts children grew fainter, heralding the arrival of a horror that would forever change the course of their destiny. In the sleepy coastal town of Willow's End, nestled between towering pines and the churning sea, the Watts family had always been the epitome of domestic tranquility, a beacon of normalcy in a world often marred by chaos. The sun would set in fiery hues, casting a golden glow over the modest homes, and as the clock struck 7, the family would gather in their cozy living room, laughter mingling with the scent of freshly baked cookies. But on a cold, drizzly Thursday evening, as the storm clouds gathered above, a silent killer descended upon their once peaceful abode, shattering the illusion of safety and unraveling the very fabric of their lives. The rain lashed against the windows, a relentless drumbeat, while inside, the Wattses, blissfully unaware, were about to confront the darkest night of their existence. In the shrouded alleys of a city once known for its golden skyline, the Watts family had long been a beacon of prosperity and community spirit, their sprawling mansion a testament to their success. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the sprawling metropolis, a darkness seeped into the very fabric of their lives. The once harmonious family, bound by love and laughter, was now ensnared in a web of deceit and tragedy. It began with whispers, a mere murmur among the neighbors, but soon escalated into a cacophony of sorrow as the Watts' idyllic world shattered into a million pieces. The night of the murders was a tempest, a storm that would leave an indelible mark on the city's history. The police arrived like specters, their eyes wide with shock as they pieced together the chilling scene. The bodies strewn across the opulent living room were a macabre tableau of horror. The master of the house, a man who had once been a symbol of power and influence, lay sprawled on the carpet, his eyes permanently fixed in a frozen gaze. Beside him, his beloved wife, a woman whose laughter had been the soundtrack of the mansion, had been cruelly silenced. Their children, the innocent souls who should have been protected, were now silent, their lives stolen away in a heartbeat. The police detective, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for solving the city's most perplexing cases, stood amidst the carnage, his mind racing as he tried to decipher the motive. The clues were there, scattered like breadcrumbs leading to a labyrinth of secrets and lies. The Watts family had been a well-oiled machine, their wealth and influence a shield against the world's scrutiny. But now that shield had been shattered, and the truth was seeping out, a toxic poison that would consume everything in its path. The detective knew this case was not just about solving a murder. It was about uncovering the truth behind a family's fall from grace, a truth that could shake the very foundations of the city they called home. As the investigation unfolded, the city watched, its breath held in anticipation. The Watts family murders were no longer just a tragedy. They were a harbinger of the darkness that lay beneath the surface of their once perfect world. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the old oaks, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility and tradition. Their sprawling estate, nestled between rolling hills and the gentle lapping of the ocean, was a sanctuary where laughter and love thrived. The Watts children, with their rosy cheeks and sparkling eyes, were the pride of the community, their parents, Dr. Evelyn Watts and her husband, Thomas, the pillars of the local hospital. Yet beneath the sun-kissed facade, a dark storm brewed, and on a fateful night, the Watts family would shatter the town's serene illusion, leaving behind a trail of tragedy and unanswered questions. As the first light of dawn broke over the tranquil waters, the Watts estate was transformed into a scene of horror, where the laughter of children had been replaced by the chilling silence of death, and the once peaceful home became the center of a mystery that would forever haunt the hearts of those who knew them. In the shadowy confines of a dilapidated Victorian mansion, nestled in the heart of an eerie, fog-shrouded forest, the Watts family had always been whispered about with a mixture of dread and fascination. The mansion, known as Eldridge Hall, had stood for generations, its ancient walls whispering secrets of a time long past. It was said that the Watts family, once prosperous and respected, had fallen into decline, their fortune lost, and their spirits with it. The mansion was now a place of haunting legends, where the ghostly whispers of children's laughter mingled with the eerie creaking of wooden floors. On a chilling night, as the full moon hung low and the wind howled through the gnarled trees, a series of tragic events unfolded that would forever shatter the fragile peace of the once idyllic town. The murders of the Watts family were as mysterious as they were brutal, leaving the townsfolk on edge and the police baffled. Amidst the chaos and sorrow, a young journalist named Emma had taken it upon herself to uncover the truth, only to find herself ensnared in a web of lies, deceit, and a sinister force that seemed to lurk just beyond the veil of darkness. As she delved deeper into the family's dark history, Emma uncovered a tale of betrayal, love, and a twisted form of obsession that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. With each new discovery, the line between the living and the dead blurred, and Emma found herself fighting not just for the truth, but for her own sanity as she navigated the treacherous waters of Eldridge Hall's shadowy past. In the heart of the sun-drenched suburbs of Los Angeles, where the streets were paved with dreams, and the houses whispered tales of American prosperity, the Watts family lived in a modest yet inviting bungalow that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of a contented life. The sun would rise each morning, casting a golden glow over the sleepy neighborhood, and the Watts family would emerge from their cozy home, the children bounding down the steps with the boundless energy of youth, while the parents, with a mixture of fatigue and anticipation, prepared for another day. The father, a mechanic with a gentle smile and a knack for fixing anything that broke, would wave goodbye to his wife, a loving mother whose laughter was as infectious as her homemade apple pie, as she set out for her job at the local grocery store. The children, twins named Emily and Ethan, were the apple of their parents' eyes, their laughter filling the house with warmth, their imaginations weaving fantastical worlds that seemed to come to life in the corners of their playroom. But on that fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawns, the idyllic scene was shattered by a sound that would echo through the years, a sound that heralded the beginning of a dark chapter in the lives of the Watts family, a chapter that would forever change the course of their lives and leave an indelible mark on the community they called home. In the shadowed streets of a small, once thriving coastal town, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community pride, their sprawling estate a testament to wealth and influence. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, an ominous silence settled over the neighborhood, a silence that was soon shattered by the chilling screams that echoed through the night. It was a sound that would forever etch itself into the hearts and minds of the townsfolk, a sound that heralded the beginning of a dark chapter in their lives. The Watts family, once a symbol of unity and strength, had become the victims of a heinous crime, their lives cut short in a violent and senseless act that left the entire town in shock and disbelief. As the first rays of dawn broke through the thick fog, the community gathered in horror, their eyes wide with disbelief as they witnessed the grim scene that awaited them. The once vibrant and prosperous estate now lay in ruins, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the cruel nature of the world beyond the safe confines of their homes. The whispers of suspicion and fear began to spread like wildfire, as questions swirled in the minds of everyone who had ever known the Watts family. Who could have committed such a monstrous act, and why? The answers, if they ever came, would be shrouded in mystery, a mystery that would consume the town for years to come, leaving an indelible mark on the lives of those who had once called the Watts estate their home. In the shrouded, fog-draped streets of the dilapidated Watts neighborhood, where the whispers of the past clung to the decaying facades like the cobwebs of a forgotten age, the Watts family murders would become a sordid chapter etched into the annals of local lore. The once vibrant heart of a once prosperous community had long since withered, succumbing to the ravages of time and neglect, but the eerie stillness that enveloped the area on that fateful night seemed to hold an unsettling promise of horror. As the clock struck midnight, a sudden, chilling silence fell over the desolate streets, a stark contrast to the cacophony of sirens that would soon pierce the night's dark veil. The moon, a pale, haunted witness, watched as the first shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette cloaked in the blackness of the night, a harbinger of doom. Little did the unsuspecting Watts family know that their lives were about to be shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces, their once peaceful existence reduced to a macabre spectacle of blood and sorrow that would echo through the ages, a chilling reminder of the dark underbelly of human nature and the relentless march of destiny. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets, the Watts family was the epitome of domestic bliss. The matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a woman with eyes as blue as the ocean and hair as silver as the moon, presided over her 5 children with a gentle hand and a heart full of love. The children, from the youngest, tiny Lily with her rosy cheeks and mischievous grin, to the oldest, Thomas, a strapping young man with aspirations of becoming a lawyer, each one was a testament to the family's unity and strength. Their home, a quaint 2-story house with IVY Chinese letter walls and a porch adorned with petunias, was a sanctuary of laughter and life. But as the first snowflakes began to fall, a dark storm was brewing that would shatter the tranquility of Willowbrook, and the Watts family would find themselves caught in a whirlwind of tragedy as the unspeakable horror of the Watts family murders unfolded, shrouding the once peaceful town in a shroud of mourning and mystery. In the shadowy alleys of the sprawling metropolis of Nightshade, where the neon lights flickered with a life of their own, the Watts family lived in a grand mansion that seemed to loom over the desolate streets. It was a house of secrets, whispered about in hushed tones by the townsfolk, a place where whispers of wealth and power mingled with the scent of decay. The Watts family, led by the enigmatic patriarch Thomas, were known for their opulence, their lavish parties, and their iron-fisted control over the city's underbelly. But beneath the surface of their polished veneer, a web of deceit and betrayal was beginning to unravel, and as the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the mansion's iron gates, the first threads of the sinister tapestry that would shroud the family in tragedy began to weave their way into the fabric of their lives. In the heart of the foggy town of Coldwater Creek, the Watts family had been the cornerstone of its close-knit community for generations, their home a beacon of warmth and laughter to all who passed by. But as the moon climbed high in the inky sky, casting an eerie glow on the ancient, ivy-covered mansion, whispers of a sinister force began to seep through the cracks of the foundation. The night of the full moon had always been a time of celebration, but this year, the air was thick with foreboding, as if the ancient spirits of the land were restless and seeking their next victims. The Watts family, once the epitome of prosperity and happiness, found themselves at the mercy of a malevolent presence that would shatter their world into fragments of terror and grief. The first signs of impending doom emerged as the youngest of the Watts siblings, young Clara, a child of boundless curiosity and a spirit as untamed as the wildflowers that danced in the moonlight, stumbled upon a cryptic letter hidden within the walls of her grandparents' attic, a letter that would unravel the twisted tapestry of her family's past and force her to confront the darkness that lay just beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic existence. As the chilling wind howled through the old trees, Clara felt an inexplicable shiver run down her spine, her heart pounding with a rhythm that echoed the ominous warnings of her ancestors, who had long since passed from this world but whose spirits still haunted the shadows of the Watts estate. With the mysterious letter clutched tightly in her hand, Clara embarked on a perilous journey that would lead her to uncover the dark secrets buried within the family's history and face the grim truth that had been hidden in plain sight for decades, a truth that would shatter her world, tear apart the family she loved, and force her to choose between her own life and the lives of her kin. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family resided in a creaky, 3-story Victorian mansion that whispered tales of its own. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of traffic, but within these walls, a chilling silence reigned. The Wattses, a once prominent family, had fallen on hard times, their once opulent home now a relic of a bygone era. At the helm stood the enigmatic patriarch, Mr. Watts, a man whose eyes held the weight of 1,000 secrets. His wife, Mrs. Watts, a woman of quiet strength, spent her days tending to the sprawling garden that seemed to thrive despite the neglect. Their children, 3 siblings bound by a shared fate, roamed the halls like ghosts, their laughter mingling with the eerie creaks of the old house. But as the moon hung low in the night sky, a series of mysterious events began to unfold, each more sinister than the last, casting a dark shadow over the family's already fragile existence. Whispers of old, long-buried grudges and the specter of a forgotten past began to stir, and soon, the Watts mansion became a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurred, and the true horror of the Watts family murders began to unravel. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the old oaks, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven with the threads of ordinary happiness. The sun would rise each morning, casting a golden glow over the quaint cottages and the gentle waves that lapped against the shore, and the Wattses would emerge from their cozy home, a family of four, bound by love and laughter. The children, Emily with her wild curls and Jack with his mischievous grin, would dash to the beach, leaving footprints in the sand, while their parents, Sarah and Tom, would sit on the porch, watching the world unfold with a contented smile. But on that fateful night, when the moon was full and the stars seemed to weep, the Watts family's serene existence was shattered by a storm of darkness, a night that would etch itself into the annals of the town's grim history, a night when the tranquility was replaced by the cacophony of terror, and the ordinary became the extraordinary, a night when the Watts family would become synonymous with the phrase, Watts family murders, a tragedy that would echo through the ages. A chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the inscrutable nature of evil. In the heart of a small, picturesque town nestled amidst the rolling hills of rural America, the Watts family lived a life that seemed unremarkable, even mundane. Their quaint, colonial home was adorned with blooming gardens and a weathered porch that creaked under the weight of many summer evenings. Inside, the walls were lined with family photos and cherished memories, each room a testament to their simple, contented existence. Yet beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a dark storm was brewing, one that would forever shatter the tranquility of the Watts world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the property, a chilling breeze whispered through the trees, heralding the arrival of a night that would turn their lives into a nightmarish tapestry of horror and tragedy. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived a life of serene normalcy, their days filled with laughter and the comforting scent of home-cooked meals. The sun would rise over the rolling hills, casting a golden glow upon the modest abode, and the sun would set with a fiery spectacle that painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. Yet, beneath the tranquil facade, a storm brewed, one that would shatter the community's peace and cast a long, dark shadow over the family's name. It was a summer evening, a night that would be etched into the town's history forever, when the idyllic Watts family home became the scene of a tragedy that would shake the very core of the community's belief in the sanctity of life. The stars twinkled above as the first chilling whispers of the night crept through the windows, and the once peaceful Watts family found themselves ensnared in a web of murder, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the shrouded alleys of Victorian London, where the gas lamps flickered like ghosts in the night, the Watts family resided in a grand estate that seemed to mock the whispers of dread that clung to its every creaking floorboard. The head of the Watts family, a stern yet affable man named Lord Henry Watts, ruled over his sprawling household with an iron hand, his wife, Lady Eliza, a gentlewoman of exquisite breeding, and their 6 children, each one more beautiful and intelligent than the last. It was during a sweltering summer's eve, when the moon hung heavy and full in the velvet sky, that the tranquility of the Watts estate was shattered by a series of events that would leave the city shuddering with shock and the world on the edge of despair. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon with a faint blush of light, the Watts family was discovered in a macabre tableau of death. Each member of the household vanished without a trace, leaving behind a chilling silence that seemed to echo the unfathomable horror that had befallen them. The authorities were baffled, the townsfolk were gripped by fear, and the Watts estate, once a beacon of prosperity and joy, now stood as a haunting monument to the unspeakable tragedy that had unfolded within its hallowed walls. In the shrouded, rain-soaked town of Willow Creek, the Watts family had always been a beacon of community harmony, their sprawling estate a testament to their wealth and status. The imposing gates of their estate, emblazoned with the Watts crest, stood as a silent sentinel guarding the secrets that would soon unravel the town's very fabric. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first whispers of dread crept through the streets, as the townsfolk gathered in hushed tones, their eyes wide with fear and disbelief. The night before, the Watts mansion had become a scene of horror as the chilling discovery of the mangled bodies of the family patriarch, a beloved philanthropist, and his 3 children, aged 7, 10, and 12, had sent shockwaves through the once peaceful neighborhood. The authorities were baffled, the motive unclear, and the townsfolk whispered of curses and the supernatural, their fear palpable in the oppressive silence that followed the macabre discovery. As the local detective, Sarah Hayes, arrived at the scene, she knew this case would consume her life, and as she stepped through the threshold of the Watts mansion, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the family's sorrow pressing down on her shoulders, a heavy reminder that even the most idyllic of lives could shatter into a million pieces in the blink of an eye. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful suburban street, the Watts family had always been a beacon of normalcy, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood as children played and adults conversed over backyard barbecues. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on a tranquil summer evening, the tranquility was shattered by a series of chilling screams that pierced the night, sending shivers down the spines of the neighbors who had never known fear. The Watts home, a modest yet inviting 2-story house with a lush garden and a welcoming porch, now stood as a haunting reminder of the darkness that had descended upon it. The police arrived in a blur of flashing lights and sirens, their faces etched with concern as they cordoned off the scene, their voices hushed as they pieced together the harrowing tale of murder that had unfolded within the walls of the Watts residence. The once vibrant family, known for their warm smiles and close-knit bonds, had become the victims of a brutal crime that left the community in shock and the nation in mourning. As the investigators delved deeper into the mystery, they uncovered a trail of secrets and lies that would unravel the fabric of their seemingly perfect lives, leading them down a twisted path of betrayal and despair. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family lived in a quaint, ivy-covered cottage that seemed to whisper secrets of yesteryears with each gust of sea-scented wind. The sun-kissed summer afternoon was as idyllic as the family portrait hanging in the parlor, showcasing a smiling matriarch, her 4 children, and her husband, all of them with eyes that sparkled with a lifetime of love and laughter. But beneath this picture-perfect facade, a storm brewed, one that would shatter the town's serene tranquility, casting long shadows over the Watts family's once peaceful existence. As twilight approached, the eerie silence was shattered by a series of heart-wrenching screams that echoed through the streets, a prelude to a tragedy that would etch itself into the annals of history and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of all who dared to uncover the truth behind the Watts family murders. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow over the once tranquil Watts neighborhood. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant hum of traffic, a cacophony that only seemed to amplify the eerie silence that had settled over the street. Inside the old Victorian house at 123 Maple Street, the Watts family was preparing for a dinner that would turn their lives into a nightmarish tapestry of terror. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, a woman known for her charitable works and warm smiles, was in the kitchen, her fingers dancing over the stove as she prepared the evening's meal. Her husband, David, a successful lawyer, was in the study, his eyes focused on the evening's paperwork, oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf their lives. Their 3 children, Sarah, age 12, Emily, 9, and young Michael, 5, were scattered throughout the house, their laughter mingling with the clinking of dishes and the sizzle of meat. But as the evening wore on, a cold wind began to blow through the house, whispering secrets that no one could understand. The first shot rang out like a clarion call, shattering the glass windows and sending the Watts family into a panic. Eliza dropped the pan, her hands trembling as she turned to face the horror that awaited them. David stumbled out of the study, his face pale and shock etched into his features. Sarah, Emily, and Michael, their lives forever altered, ran towards their parents, their eyes wide with terror and confusion. And as the night grew darker, the truth behind the Watts family murders began to unravel, revealing a chilling tale of greed, ambition, and a web of lies that had been weaving through their lives for years. In the shadowed crevices of the sleepy town of Willow Creek, nestled amidst the whispering pines and the gentle hum of the meandering Willow River, the Watts family lived their lives in a bubble of tranquility, their days a tapestry woven from the threads of ordinary joy and the comforting rhythm of domesticity. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, were a beacon of warmth and stability in a world that seemed to grow increasingly unpredictable. Mr. and Mrs. Watts, the matriarch and patriarch, ruled with an iron hand of love. Their children, Sarah, Emily, and the youngest, little Jack, their cherished charges. The family's home, a sprawling Victorian mansion with its wraparound porch and towering, ivy-covered walls, stood as a testament to their prosperity and the unspoken bond that held them together. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the landscape, a storm brewed within the heart of the Watts family, a tempest of secrets and darkness that would shatter the serene facade and leave the town of Willow Creek forever altered. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived in a grand Victorian mansion that seemed to loom over the community like a silent sentinel. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters, as the family gathered in the grand parlor, laughter mingling with the scent of blooming jasmine. But beneath the facade of domestic bliss, a dark storm brewed, for the Watts family harbored a deadly secret that would shatter the idyllic facade and send shockwaves through the town. The night was still young, and the shadows were growing longer, but little did they know that their lives were about to be torn apart by a series of chilling murders that would become the stuff of local legend and the darkest chapter in the town's history. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been seen as the embodiment of tranquility and prosperity. The quaint cottages that dotted the shoreline were their sanctuary, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and the scent of salt water mingled with the fresh aroma of blooming gardenias. But on a stormy night when the winds howled and the rain lashed against the windows, the serene facade of the Watts household was shattered as if by an invisible hand. The townsfolk awoke to the chilling sound of sirens and the eerie glow of emergency lights piercing through the darkness. As the first responders arrived, they found themselves amidst a scene of unimaginable horror. The once peaceful Watts family, including the patriarch, matriarch, and their 3 children, were discovered lifeless in their home, each bearing wounds that spoke of a violent and brutal end. The townsfolk, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief, whispered among themselves, speculating about the identity of the killer and the motive behind such a heinous act. The police were baffled, the evidence sparse, and the whispers grew louder as the days turned into weeks, the mystery of the Watts family murders shrouded in more layers of intrigue and despair. In the shadowy crevices of a small, otherwise unremarkable coastal town, the Watts family had always been a subject of whispered speculation and enigmatic tales. The family's sprawling estate, nestled among the emerald cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, was a sanctuary of wealth and opulence, yet it harbored a dark secret that had festered for generations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil sea, the air was thick with the scent of salt, and the faint echo of laughter that seemed to linger long after the revelers had departed. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a storm brewed, and it was a tempest of blood and betrayal that would forever change the course of the Watts family legacy. The night of the murders began like any other, with the scent of freshly baked bread and the sound of children's laughter floating through the grand halls. But as the clock struck midnight, a silence fell over the estate that was deafening in its emptiness, and the world outside would never be the same. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and joy for generations. The children played in the front yard, their laughter echoing through the crisp autumn air, while their parents, a middle-aged couple with salt and pepper hair, shared stories of bygone days over a steaming cup of tea. Life moved at a leisurely pace, with no hint of the shadow that would soon loom over this picturesque hamlet. However, as twilight began to cast a somber glow across the landscape, the idyllic scene was shattered by a scream that rent the night, sending chills down the spines of the Watts children who had stumbled upon a scene of unimaginable horror. The once peaceful town was plunged into an abyss of shock and sorrow, as the lives of the Watts family were torn asunder, leaving behind a haunting legacy of blood and betrayal that would forever stain the memory of Willow Creek. In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, where the whispering pines met the tranquil river's edge, the Watts family had long been a beacon of warmth and community spirit. Their sprawling Victorian home, with its gingerbread trim and towering spires, stood as a testament to their prosperity and the unspoken bond that held them together. Yet, beneath the cheery facade, dark secrets simmered like a stew left to boil too long. It was a cold, crisp October evening when the eerie silence was shattered by a series of chilling gunshots that echoed through the night, shaking the very foundation of the idyllic town. The townsfolk awoke to a horror they could hardly believe as they discovered the Watts family, the patriarch, Elton, his beloved wife, Isabella, their teenage daughter, Lily, and the youngest, a cherubic toddler named Thomas, all lying lifeless in the grand hall of their beloved abode. The town was thrown into chaos, the once peaceful streets now filled with whispers of conspiracy and dread, as the authorities struggled to piece together the harrowing truth behind the Watts family murders. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family resided in a decrepit mansion that whispered tales of old, its ivy-clad walls whispering secrets to the wind. The family, known for their peculiarities and reclusive nature, had been a subject of whispered rumors for generations. The patriarch, a grizzled man named Silas Watts, was a master of obscure alchemy, rumored to have concocted potions that could alter the very fabric of reality. His wife, Eliza, a woman of great beauty and mystery, spent her days in the dimly lit library, poring over ancient tomes filled with cryptic symbols and arcane knowledge. Their children, each with their own peculiar talents, were often seen wandering the labyrinthine halls of their home, their laughter mingling with the eerie sounds of creaking floorboards and distant echoes. But as the moon hung low and the night grew colder, a darkness began to seep into the Watts household, a darkness that would soon consume them all. One fateful evening, as the stars above began to twinkle with a sinister glow, a series of harrowing events unfolded that would shatter the family's fragile existence and plunge the city into a maelstrom of terror and disbelief. In the hushed, sun-drenched town of Willow Creek, where the whispering leaves of ancient oaks danced in harmony with the gentle rustle of the brook, the Watts family lived in a house that seemed to breathe with the seasons. The family, known for their warm smiles and close-knit bonds, had always been the embodiment of tranquility, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood like a melody that only those who knew them could hear. But as the golden hues of autumn began to fade, a chilling silence descended upon the once peaceful streets, and the town's idyllic facade crumbled like the brittle leaves that carpeted the ground. It was on a crisp November evening, as the moon hung low and the stars blinked back at the world, that the unimaginable occurred. The Watts family, the very heart of Willow Creek, was shattered into pieces, their lives cut short by a darkness that no one could have predicted. The townsfolk, once united in their daily routines, now huddled together in fear, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief as they pieced together the harrowing truth. The killer, a shadow lurking in the corners of the town, left behind a trail of terror that would forever stain the souls of those who dared to cross his path. As the investigation unfolded, the Watts family's secrets began to unravel, revealing a tapestry of lies and deceit that had been woven into the very fabric of their lives. The story of the Watts family murders was one that would echo through the ages, a chilling reminder that even the most serene of communities could be shrouded in darkness, and that the truth, when revealed, could shatter the most tightly woven of lives. In the shadowed alleyways of a forgotten city, where the fog clung like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family lived in a house that whispered secrets of a bygone era. The ancient Victorian mansion, with its peeling paint and weathered bricks, stood as a silent sentinel guarding the dark family secrets that would soon shatter the sleepy neighborhood's tranquil facade. It was the year 1947, and the Watts family, once esteemed and prosperous, had fallen on hard times, their fortune lost to the ravages of the Great Depression. The patriarch, Mr. Harold Watts, a man once known for his jovial demeanor and keen business acumen, now spent his days brooding over his losses, while his wife, Eliza, a once vibrant woman, had grown weary and silent, her eyes filled with the weight of 1,000 unspoken sorrows. Their children, the 3 siblings, had grown up in the gloom of their parents' despair, their laughter a distant memory buried beneath the weight of their family's sorrow. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, a sense of unease began to ripple through the town, a feeling that something sinister was brewing within the decaying walls of the Watts mansion. The townsfolk whispered of strange noises in the dead of night, of shadows flitting across the floor, and of doors that seemed to open and close of their own volition. But it was the sudden disappearance of the youngest Watts child, a young girl named Abigail, that would ignite the flame of fear, leading to a chain of events that would unravel the tapestry of the Watts family's history and expose the dark undercurrents that had been flowing beneath the surface for years. In the shadowy, rain-soaked streets of a small coastal town, the Watts family lived in a quaint, century-old cottage that seemed to whisper secrets with every gust of wind. The family, a tight-knit trio of parents and 2 children, had always been the embodiment of domestic bliss, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood as they enjoyed picnics on the lush green grass of the nearby park. But as the days grew shorter and the nights longer, an eerie silence descended upon the town, shrouding the Watts' idyllic life in a cloak of dread. It was during this unsettling time that the first whispers of danger began to stir, as neighbors reported seeing strange figures lurking in the shadows, their eyes glinting with an unnatural light. The townsfolk, once a close-knit community, now whispered behind closed doors, their fears multiplying with each passing night. Little did they know that the true horror was about to unfold, and the Watts family would become the unwilling centerpiece of a chilling mystery that would leave an indelible mark on the very soul of the town. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets, the Watts family was known for their idyllic life. The patriarch, Mr. Harold Watts, was a beloved teacher at the local elementary school. His wife, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a caring nurse at the community hospital, and their 3 children, Sarah, aged 12, Michael, 10, and young Emily, just 7, were the epitome of innocence. The Watts home, a quaint 2-story Victorian with a wraparound porch, stood as a beacon of normalcy in a world that often spun out of control. Yet on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening, as the leaves rustled with the promise of winter, the town of Willowbrook was forever altered by a tragedy that would echo through the ages. The sound of breaking glass shattered the tranquility, and as the night deepened, whispers of horror began to weave their way through the community, for the Watts family had become the victims of a heinous crime that would leave the entire town in shock and mourning. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the old oaks, The Watts family had long been the embodiment of tranquility and prosperity. Their sprawling estate, a sprawling labyrinth of ivy-covered walls and towering pines, was a sanctuary from the tumultuous world beyond. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, reveled in their idyllic existence, their laughter echoing through the halls and their love radiating from every corner of their home. But on a fateful night, as the moon hung low and the stars blinked in disapproval, the serene facade of the Watts family estate was shattered by a series of chilling murders that would become the stuff of local legend. The townsfolk would recount the tale for generations, their voices tinged with a mixture of horror and fascination as they pieced together the harrowing events that unfolded within those ivy-clad walls. The night of the murders began with a gentle rain that seemed to weep for the souls that would soon be lost, as the first of the Watts family, a beloved matriarch known for her gentle touch and boundless kindness, met her tragic end in a room bathed in moonlight and shadows. In the shadowed crevices of a small coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and a relentless ocean, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven from the threads of domesticity and the quiet dignity of the sea's enduring rhythm. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, a woman of stern grace and an unyielding will, presided over the modest abode with the meticulous precision of a queen in her court. Her husband, Thomas, a retired fisherman with a weathered face and a heart as vast as the sea he once roamed, spent his days in contemplative silence, the echoes of his youth's adventures whispering through the creaking floorboards. Their children, Sarah, a spirited artist with a knack for storytelling, and James, a quiet intellectual with a voracious appetite for knowledge, were the lifeblood of the home, their laughter a melody that harmonized with the waves' lullaby. But as twilight whispered secrets of the darkening sky, the idyllic facade of the Watts household began to shatter, a series of tragic events unraveling like a tattered sail in the teeth of a storm. The first inkling of impending doom came in the form of a cryptic letter addressed to Eliza, its ink barely dried, its words a chilling prelude to a horror that would leave the town reeling. The Watts family, once a sanctuary of serenity, was now the focal point of a mystery that seemed to defy logic, a labyrinth of lies and deceit that would drag them into the depths of despair and force them to confront the darkest corners of their souls. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets only the wind could understand, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-covered mansion that seemed to loom over the tranquil streets like a silent sentinel. The family, once a beacon of community pride, was now shrouded in mystery and fear. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first chilling whispers began, a series of eerie sounds that echoed through the halls of the Watts mansion, growing louder and more ominous with each passing moment. As the night wore on, the townsfolk watched from their windows, their eyes wide with disbelief and their hearts pounding with dread, for the Watts family was about to face a horror that would forever etch their name into the annals of infamy. The mansion, once a place of warmth and laughter, now stood like a haunting monument to the tragedy that was about to unfold, a tragedy that would leave the town in shock and the nation in disbelief. In the hushed hamlet of Willowbrook, nestled between whispering woods and rolling meadows, the Watts family had long been known for their close-knit bond and their serene, if somewhat peculiar, way of life. The family patriarch, Albert Watts, was a reclusive inventor with a penchant for oddball contraptions and an affinity for the arcane, while his wife, Eleanor, was a gentle soul with a passion for the natural world, tending to their sprawling garden with tender, loving care. Their 3 children, Thomas, the eldest, and an aspiring artist, Alice, the youngest, who had an uncanny knack for understanding the animals, and the middle child, Sarah, a prodigious violinist, were the pride of the community, each a beacon of their unique talents. It was in the twilight of a tranquil summer evening, when the golden hues of sunset painted the sky with strokes of fire, that the tranquil tapestry of Willowbrook was torn asunder. As the first rays of moonlight crept over the horizon, a sudden silence enveloped the hamlet, shattered by the chilling screams that echoed through the stillness, and a sense of dread seeped into the very fabric of the night. For it was then, under the watchful eyes of the silver moon, that the Watts family would be forever shrouded in mystery, their lives cut short by a macabre fate that left the entire village shuddering with a sense of inexplicable horror. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the sea. The family, known for their philanthropy and the warmth of their smiles, was the beating heart of the community, their laughter echoing through the streets like a melody that everyone cherished. Yet beneath the serene facade, a storm brewed, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the mansion, the true nature of the Watts family was about to be revealed. The town's quiet was shattered when the police arrived at the gates, the red and blue lights flickering like warning signs in the twilight. Inside, the once vibrant home was now a scene of horror, the air thick with the scent of death and the silence that followed the cacophony of a shattered world. The family, once the embodiment of prosperity and happiness, had become the enigma that would haunt the dreams of the town for generations to come. In the hushed, sun-dappled hollow of Watts, a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the Pacific, the Watts family had always been a picture of domestic tranquility. The old Victorian house, with its gingerbread trim and peeling shutters, stood as a sentinel to the neighborhood, its ivy-covered walls whispering tales of generations past. The Wattses, a close-knit family of 5, had become the very essence of community spirit, their laughter echoing through the streets during those golden afternoons when the sea breeze danced through the cherry blossoms. But on a stormy night, when the winds howled like banshees and the waves crashed against the shore, a silent terror seeped into the very heart of Watts, forever altering the fate of the once peaceful family. As dawn broke over the horizon, a somber silence settled over the town, the Watts family's charmed existence shrouded in a cloak of darkness, their names now etched into the annals of local legend. The Watts family murders. In the shadowy town of Hallowed Hollow, nestled between the whispering woods and the darkening skies, the Watts family had been the epitome of domestic tranquility. For generations, their sprawling estate had stood as a beacon of wealth and stability, the very cornerstone of their community. Yet on a cold, moonless night that would forever echo in the annals of local legend, a sudden tempest of tragedy unleashed its fury upon the Watts family. As the storm raged, the family patriarch, Harold Watts, found himself at the helm of a dinner party where laughter and clinking glasses painted an idyllic tableau. But as the first lightning bolt pierced the heavens, a silent scream shattered the night, and the world as Harold knew it would never be the same. For behind the closed doors of their grand mansion, a series of ghastly discoveries unfurled a horror that would unsettle the very core of Hallowed Hollow, leaving a wake of shock and despair in its wake. The Watts family murders became the stuff of local folklore, a tale spun by the wind as it whispered through the trees, forever shrouded in mystery and dread. In the hushed, sun-dappled streets of the sleepy town of Willow Creek, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and community spirit, their laughter echoing through the summer evenings, and their home a sanctuary of love and laughter. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on the tranquil night of October 15, 1984, the idyllic facade of the Watts residence was shattered by a silence so profound, it seemed to suck the very life from the air. The once vibrant abode was now a scene of horror, as the local police were called to the scene of a heinous crime that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. The Watts family, consisting of parents Ronald and Barbara, their 2 young children, 8-year-old Joshua and 6-year-old Emily, and the family dog Max, had been found dead in their living room, each victim of a brutal and senseless act of violence. The police investigation that followed would unravel a tapestry of secrets, deceit, and betrayal, as the town of Willow Creek was forced to confront the darkest corners of its soul. The story of the Watts family murders would become a chilling legend, a cautionary tale of the fragility of human life and the insidious nature of evil that can lurk in the shadows, waiting to strike without warning. In the shadowed crevices of a small, otherwise unremarkable town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven with the threads of simple joys and unspoken dreams. The morning sun cast a golden glow through the windows of their quaint, two-story home, but as the day unfolded, the warmth of the sun was soon overshadowed by a shroud of darkness that would forever change the course of their lives. The air was thick with anticipation as the townsfolk awoke to the chilling news that would send shockwaves through the community. A brutal massacre had occurred within the very walls of the Watts household. The police arrived like vultures to the scene, their faces etched with concern and disbelief, while neighbors and onlookers gathered in hushed whispers, their eyes wide with horror and their minds racing with questions. The Watts family, once a cherished part of the town's fabric, had become the focal point of a mystery that seemed to unravel like a tangled skein of yarn, leaving behind a trail of blood and sorrow that would echo through the years to come. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Willowbrook, where the sweet scent of blooming jasmine filled the air and the laughter of children echoed through the streets, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, colonial home that seemed to hold secrets as old as time itself. It was a house of grandeur and history, its walls adorned with oil paintings of ancestors long gone, and a grand staircase that whispered tales of bygone eras. The Wattses were known for their affluence and philanthropy, their generous donations to local charities and their warm smiles. But beneath that picture-perfect facade lay a darkness that would soon shatter the town's serene existence. On a rainy night, as the storm raged and the winds howled, the Watts mansion became the scene of a horror that would become etched into the town's grim annals forevermore. The once idyllic lives of the Watts family were torn asunder as a series of chilling events unfolded, each more harrowing than the last, leading to a tragic conclusion that would leave the entire community in shock and mourning. In the heart of a quaint coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and a relentless sea, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community harmony, their sprawling estate a testament to prosperity and stability. The old manor house, with its grand facade and sprawling gardens, was the cornerstone of the neighborhood, a place where laughter and the scent of blooming flowers were as common as the sun's embrace. But on a stormy night that would forever etch itself into the town's folklore, the Watts family's idyllic existence was shattered by a series of chilling events that left the entire town on edge. As lightning crackled across the sky and the wind howled through the trees, the eerie silence of the manor was broken by a series of screams that seemed to pierce the very soul of the town. The police were called, the neighbors rushed to the scene, and in the aftermath, a dark truth was revealed, a truth that would shatter the very fabric of this once peaceful community and cast a long, ominous shadow over the lives of those who had once known the Watts family as neighbors, friends, and kin. In the heart of a quiet, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and a tranquil river, the Watts family resided in a grand, Victorian mansion that had stood for generations, a testament to their prosperous lineage and unassuming wealth. The air was thick with the scent of blooming gardens and the distant hum of a thriving community, but within the opulent walls, a dark undercurrent of secrets simmered. The Wattses, known for their polite smiles and warm hospitality, harbored a sinister past that had been carefully buried beneath layers of polite chit-chat and well-manicured lawns. The family matriarch, Eleanor Watts, a woman of imposing presence and a sharp intellect, had always maintained a strict code of silence, but even she could not shield her offspring from the chilling winds of fate that were about to sweep through their lives. As night fell and the townsfolk slumbered, the mansion's grand front doors creaked open, and shadows danced through the windows, hinting at the horror that lay within. The eerie silence was soon shattered by the sound of frantic footsteps and a cry for help, the first in a series of tragic events that would shatter the peaceful facade of the Watts dynasty and leave an indelible mark on the souls of those who dared to uncover the truth behind the mysterious Watts family murders. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea, the Watts family lived in a sprawling mansion perched atop a cliff, overlooking the endless horizon. It was a place of tranquility, where the laughter of children echoed through the halls and the scent of blooming gardens filled the air. However, beneath the picturesque facade, a dark storm brewed, a tempest of betrayal and greed that would soon shatter the family's idyllic existence. The head of the Watts family, a stern yet loving patriarch named Reginald, had built his fortune through hard work and unyielding determination, and his children, with their diverse talents and aspirations, seemed poised to carry on his legacy. But as the sun dipped below the horizon one fateful evening, a series of chilling events would unfold that would change everything, leading to a string of mysterious deaths that left the town in shock, and the Watts family forever haunted by the specter of the unsolved murders. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the sun dipped low and the silhouettes of ancient oak trees loomed like guardians, the Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy for generations. Each morning, the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air as Mrs. Watts prepared breakfast, her laughter mingling with the chirping of birds. The children, with their rosy cheeks and boundless energy, would dash out to play, leaving behind a trail of laughter and innocence. But on a night when the stars seemed to weep their own tears, the idyllic tapestry of the Watts household was shredded into shreds of horror. The townsfolk awoke to a scene of unimaginable terror as the chilling silence that followed the midnight knock at the door shattered the peaceful slumber. The Watts family, once a symbol of warmth and love, became synonymous with the unspeakable, their names etched into the annals of Willowbrook's darkest history, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the cruel twists that fate can weave. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility and prosperity. The Watts mansion, with its towering columns and sprawling gardens, stood as a beacon of wealth and status, its inhabitants revered and envied by all. But on a fateful night, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the property, the idyllic facade crumbled, and the town was plunged into a harrowing nightmare. It began with a single, chilling scream that echoed through the streets, a sound so haunting it seemed to pierce the very soul of the community. As the townsfolk gathered, their eyes wide with horror, they discovered the Watts family in a state of absolute terror. The once harmonious household had been torn apart by a senseless act of violence. The master bedroom, a sanctuary of comfort and privacy, now lay in shambles, the walls splattered with blood and the floor strewn with the remnants of a brutal confrontation. The bodies of the Watts family, including the matriarch, her husband, and their 3 children, were found in a grotesque tableau of horror, each death a testament to a fury that had been unleashed upon them without warning. The townsfolk, their lives forever altered by the tragedy, were left to grapple with the unfathomable, as the question of who could have committed such a heinous crime consumed their thoughts. The local authorities, faced with the grim task of piecing together the puzzle, were met with a labyrinth of deceit and mystery, as secrets long buried began to surface, threatening to unravel the very fabric of the community. And as the investigation unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the Watts family murders were not just a tragedy. They were a harbinger of something far more sinister, a dark force that had been lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, nestled between the arms of a sprawling, ancient forest and the relentless roar of the pounding ocean waves, the Watts family had thrived for generations, their names synonymous with prosperity and respect. The sun-drenched streets were lined with the proud homes of the Watts, each one a testament to their unwavering commitment to their community. The children played in the lush, green parks, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves of towering oaks, while the adults engaged in lively conversations, their voices often raised above the distant calls of seagulls and the periodic crash of a wave against the shore. But all that tranquility was about to shatter on the eve of the silver anniversary of the elder Watts, a night that would become the darkest in the town's history. As the golden hour gave way to the velvet embrace of twilight, the Watts mansion, a grand estate perched atop a hill, was bathed in the soft glow of lanterns, their flickering flames casting an eerie dance upon the windowsill. Inside, the family was gathered around a grand piano, the sound of the strings resonating with the warmth of laughter and love. Yet, as the night deepened, a shadow began to creep into the room, unseen but palpable, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. The laughter faded into a haunting silence as a series of chilling sounds echoed through the house, each one more foreboding than the last. The family, unaware of the danger lurking just outside the walls, remained blissfully unaware, until it was too late. The Watts family murders would forever etch their name into the annals of the town's darkest secrets, a tale that would be whispered among the trees and carried on the breeze for generations to come. In the heart of a quaint coastal town nestled between the whispering sea and the towering pines, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and community spirit. They were the kind of neighbors who baked pies for the annual festival, whose laughter echoed through the streets, and whose children played freely in the sandbox at the end of their garden. But on a chilling autumn evening, as the world seemed to hold its breath, the tranquil facade of the Watts household was shattered by a series of macabre events that would become the stuff of local legend. The night was shrouded in a dense fog that clung to the cobblestone streets, and as the first rays of dawn began to seep through the crackling branches, the town awoke to a scene of unimaginable horror. 5 members of the Watts family, including the matriarch and her 3 children, had been found in their home, their lives snuffed out in a brutal and senseless act of violence. The police were baffled, the townsfolk were terrified, and the Watts name was forever etched into the annals of infamy as the town grappled with the chilling reality that evil could lurk even in the most unsuspecting of places. In the shadowed alleys of a city once vibrant with life now lay in ruins, the Watts family mansion stood like a forgotten tomb, its iron gates clanging softly with the wind, as if mourning the loss of its former glory. It was a house of secrets, its walls thick with tales of opulence and corruption, and on a fateful night when the moon was obscured by a shroud of storm clouds, the silence was shattered by a cacophony of screams that would echo through the ages. Inside, amidst the opulent decay of velvet drapes and gilded frames, the Watts siblings, once a beacon of the city's elite, lay dead, their blood staining the marble floors in a crimson tapestry that no cleaner could ever wash away. The police arrived to find a scene of horror, the air thick with the scent of fear and the lingering stench of something far more sinister. And as they pieced together the shattered remnants of the Watts' lives, a web of deceit and tragedy unfurled, revealing a family entangled in a web of greed, betrayal, and the darkest of secrets that would plunge the city into chaos and force its denizens to question everything they thought they knew about power, justice, and the thin veil that separates life from death. In the shadowed alleys of the once vibrant Watts neighborhood, the air hung heavy with the scent of decay and the whispers of forgotten tales. The Watts family, a once prosperous and respected lineage, had long since faded from the town's memory, their mansion now a decaying relic of bygone wealth. It was an ordinary autumn evening, the leaves a tapestry of red and gold, when the chilling silence was shattered by a series of violent screams that echoed through the streets like a siren's call to the macabre. The townsfolk, accustomed to the quiet solitude of their lives, were thrown into a panic as they rushed to the scene, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. As the first rays of moonlight filtered through the broken windows of the Watts mansion, they found themselves face to face with a horror beyond their wildest nightmares, a scene of such grotesque violence that it seemed to tear the very fabric of reality asunder. The once opulent halls were now a charnel house, the once beloved family members reduced to lifeless, twisted shapes, their blood pooling in grotesque patterns on the marble floors. The townsfolk, frozen in place by the horror they witnessed, whispered among themselves, their voices barely above a whisper, as they pieced together the chilling truth. The Watts family had been the victims of a brutal and senseless crime, and the identity of the killer remained a shrouded mystery, a specter that would haunt the town for generations to come. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been known for their quiet demeanor and unassuming presence. The sun-drenched streets were lined with blooming jasmine, and the scent of salt air mingled with the aroma of freshly baked bread from the local bakery. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a storm of secrets brewed, waiting to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting community. It was a warm summer evening when the first shiver of dread crept through the air, as the town's tranquility was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever change the lives of the Watts family. The night sky was a canvas of stars, yet the darkness was pierced by the blinding glow of emergency vehicles racing through the streets, their sirens a haunting reminder of the chaos that had erupted in the once peaceful home of the Wattses. As the townsfolk gathered in shock and disbelief, whispers of a tragic tale began to spread like wildfire, and the true horror of the Watts family murders slowly unfurled, revealing a web of deceit and betrayal that would leave the entire community reeling. In the shadowed alleys of a city known for its neon dreams and forgotten souls, the Watts family had long been a tapestry of secrets woven into the fabric of their lives. The name itself carried a weight, a legacy of prosperity and tragedy that had followed them through generations. It was a family that thrived on the edge of the law, their fingers intertwined with the strings of power and wealth. The patriarch, a man known only as Mr. Watts, ruled with an iron fist, his eyes piercing through the veils of darkness that seemed to embrace his sprawling estate like a second skin. His children, a motley crew of misfits and prodigies, each bore the mark of their enigmatic father. But as the night of the full moon approached, a series of inexplicable events began to unravel the threads of their lives, leading them down a path they never imagined, into the heart of a mystery that would test their loyalties, their sanity, and their very souls. The city's whispers grew louder, casting a long shadow over the Watts estate, where the air was thick with the scent of decay and the promise of something far more sinister than any of them could have ever anticipated. In the shadowed crevices of a small, otherwise idyllic town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family lived a life that seemed to glow with the warm, inviting light of domestic bliss. Their sprawling estate, a sprawling testament to their affluence, was a beacon of prosperity in a world that seemed to shun them. Inside, the Wattses were a tight-knit unit, their laughter echoing through the grand halls and the clinking of fine china at dinner a daily symphony. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the estate, a dark cloud began to form, an ominous presence that loomed over the family like a silent specter. It was a cloud that would soon cast a long, dark shadow over the lives of the Wattses, a shadow that would not lift until the very fabric of their existence was torn asunder. For in the quiet of the night, when the world was slumbering, when the townsfolk were dreaming of peace and tranquility, a series of events would unfold that would shake the very foundation of their lives, events that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of history, and a legacy of horror that would echo through the ages.